Hi, I'm Ilya Kreymer, and I'm the founder and lead developer of the Webrecorder project. And today I'm going to talk about mirroring websites using web archives, and specifically using Webrecorder tools, and using govarchive.us as a particular case study of that. Uh, so first, a little bit about Webrecorder. Our goal is web archiving for all. That's our main motto, and we create and maintain free and open source web archiving tools. We focus on what we call high fidelity web archiving using the browser. So the browser is the tool that creates the web archives, and that allows us to capture highly interactive sites that rely on JavaScript, social media, so forth, custom scripting of sites in order to capture all the complex interactions. We also have a format that we've developed that called WACZ, Web Archive Collection Zipped, that allows for loading web archives on demand in the browser, and then we have a browser-based viewer for viewing the web archives. And just a quick overview of some of our key tools. BrowserTrix is our main integrated archiving tool that allows for starting crawls, watching the crawls, watching the replay, and curating custom collections from the web archives. Then we have Archive Web Page, which is our Chrome browser extension that allows users to create web archives more manually. So you basically archive as you browse each page. And then Replay Web Page is the in-browser viewer that is used both with Archive Web Page and BrowserTrix that provides web archives embedded into other sites. Next, I'm going to talk about how our web archives traditionally accessed. And in general, we have what we call this replay URL format, where the original site is presented as part of the site that hosts the web archive. So here, example.com is part of webarchive.org, the archive's Wayback Machine. Then for with our tools, a replay web page, we have a different URL format here, and just to kind of demonstrate some of these, so here's the Wayback Machine for, let's say, NDSA.org, and you can see that it's part of web.archive.org, and it has the timestamp here. For replay web page, we have a similar approach where this indicates sort of that it's loaded from this particular WACZ file, and the URL is ndsa.org. Inside of BrowserTrix, we actually have sort of other context that we can provide. This is the actual archiving workflow that created this particular archive, and we have ndsa.org embedded here. And all of these views are really useful. This is sort of a great way of curating web archive collections. This is a really flexible approach to presenting web archives. But for this presentation, I want to provide sort of a new and different way of thinking about web archives and what they can do. And that is what I call web archive-based mirrors. And a web archive-based mirror is basically where you focus on just a single site rather than multiple sites hosted within a web archive. But it is a site that can be archived itself. And the goal is just to preserve this one site as accurately as possible and to have the links work sort of originally as much as possible with the original link structure. And let's say it's a site that can no longer be maintained on its original domain, but you still want to present the site as accurately as possible the way it was, but perhaps lowering the maintenance burden. And perhaps it's controlled by someone else who no longer wants to maintain it, and you might want to have a copy of it and still keep it running as is, rather than putting it on, say, web.archive.org or in replay web page. You still want to sort of present the original site in its sort of original format. So some examples of that. So let's say you have, your original site might be my original site, example.edu, and you want to rehost that on my archive.example.org. You still want the original link structure to work, so a page.html on the original domain, becomes a page.html on the new domain. The original site might have been hosted by another institution or the government, and the mirror is hosted by maybe the author of the site or perhaps an archivist. And this is also really key here. The original site might have been a sort of WordPress, Drupal, some sort of custom CMS, custom web app, but the archive site is loaded as a static site on its own domain, and it loads the web archive on demand essentially. And that actually lowers the maintenance burden significantly. The original might have been some sort of custom application, might have required IT support to host, but the web archive version is actually fairly minimal maintenance and can be hosted directly on GitHub pages. And actually, you could even host it if you do have access to the original domain. You could actually even host it on the original domain, thereby replacing the site too. Yeah, just a quick example of that I want to show is this particular site. So Infinite Ulysses was a part of a dissertation by Dr. Amanda Visconti, who created it about 10 years ago or so. And so the original is hosted on infiniteulysses.com. Fortunately, it doesn't really load properly anymore. As you could see, there's some styling issues. I think the CSS isn't loading. But fortunately, as part of the dissertation, Dr. Visconti actually made a full archive of this site using Webrecorder tools from 10 years ago and put them up on GitHub. And I was able to access that data and then create essentially a web archive based mirror of infiniteulysses.com, and I've put it on infiniteulysses.webrecorder.net. And the way that infiniteulysses.webrecorder.net is running is actually entirely from GitHub pages. So it's basically just this, which is a static site. You can see that there is it just has index.html and the scripts to bootstrap loading the web archive, which is also on GitHub. It's in infiniteulysses.waxy, which is our format that allows loading web archives on demand, and it's actually only 31 megabytes, so it was easy to add that. And the way that this works is, so I can actually navigate on this site, and basically all these links are loaded from the web archive, even though it's a static site. And the way that works is that the site, using a service worker, intercepts these requests and it is able to look them up in the Waxy file. As I was saying, the way that this works is the initial site is a static site. It bootstraps the service worker, which then allows for loading all URLs from the Waxy file. And so it knows what the original URL is. So again, in this sort of hypothetical example, my original site.edu. And so if we load a.page.html, it knows to look up my original site.edu/a/page.html from the web archive. And this is sort of an extension of our replay web page viewer, sort of a special mode that we've built that allows for this sort of mirror-based lookup of web archives. Now, this was focusing on a single site. I want to also talk about sort of a more complex example, and that brings us to the govarchive.us portal. And this was Webrecorder's effort to preserve federal government websites and in the 2024-2025 transition. This is part of the end of term collaborative initiative, which happens every 4 years. And this is a collaboration between multiple institutions, including Internet Archive, Stanford, Common Crawl, and University of North Texas. We joined for the first time this year, and our focus was specifically on archiving sort of what we do best, which is high fidelity archives, interactive dashboards, as well as at-risk content such as climate websites, LGBTQI plus content, and anything else that we sort of deemed at risk. And so all of this data, including everyone else's data, is part of everyone who participated in this is part of eotarchive.org. But we also wanted to present it in a different way, and so we created the govarchive.us portal. And the way that this works is extending the concept of web archives powering site mirrors to multiple domains. And so the idea is that you have, essentially, rather than just hosting a single site, we can use subdomains to host different sites or to load different sites from the web archive. So if we do usaid.govarchive.us, it loads from USAID. If we do cdc.govarchive.us, it loads it loads that site from the web archive. And yeah, so this is kind of a sort of an explanation of how that works. We basically just add conveniently, to make it as easy as possible to remember, just add archive.us at the end of the site that you're looking for. And then the link structure should also be preserved. So again, you could deep link directly into these sites. And just a very quick example of what that looks like. So this is sort of the original epa.gov set, or pa.gov as it is now. If we go to, then we add pa.archive.us. Oops, did not mean to have a W here, so we just load pa.govarchive.us. And then we also have this banner that shows you that this site was loaded from the web archive. And here's global change.govarchive.us, which is the live site is gone. USAID is gone. This is what the archive version looks like. We could again link to these specific, so we could browse around. The URL structure is the same. You could kind of actually see things that have changed. So for example, the ed.gov site, we could see that certain things have been removed. And so this is ed.gov/laws policy-civil rights laws. If we load the same thing at from .govarchive.us, we see that there was another page here that is now gone. If the resources for LGBTQIA plus students is no longer there, and then we can kind of remove govarchive part and try to load the original and see that it's that this site is not found. So that's that. And a little bit more on how it works. So basically, any subdomain .govarchive.us points to the same static site. It's also hosted on GitHub pages. Plus, for the wildcard, we use Bunny CDN to make it to support the wildcard domain, which GitHub pages itself does not, and also provide caching. And basically, the replay system chooses what URL to load from the web archive based on not just the path, but also the subdomain itself. And it's using sort of the same system extended. So that's sort of the idea. Here's the repo for the govarchive replay. It's also on GitHub. We have this single site mirror starter. So if you just want to create a single site mirror, we have a GitHub repo that you could essentially clone to make your own web archive in this way. And we have a blog post that explains this all in more detail. And if you have questions about making web archives into site mirrors, either a single site or multi-site mirrors, please reach out to us. And thank you very much.